for the Coffey Break. Ooh, welcome to the show. Now it's your time to shine. We're gonna have a lekker chat tonight. Another good time.
More like a wine break.
Here we go.
It's a wine break, not a coffee break.
Sandy Coffey, welcome to the show. And it's not only welcome to the show, welcome to the co-hosting of this show.
Feels very grown up.
I know, it's fantastic. I think because Gino's spot has decided to grow a little bit. It's getting legs and it's starting to do different things, and I'm so happy that you put it. We've been working over the last couple of weeks doing this stuff, and it's been such fun. I mean,
It is. I've got fun friends.
Oh no, I know. Well, I mean, the reason why we did this as well, because during your show when you came on, we spoke about the fact that you love storytellers. And you love telling. Well, you love story. You're good at telling stories, but you love storytellers, and also you've got a concept that you have been using already. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So when I was about 15, I said to my dad, I didn't know what I want to do with my life. I still don't, but
Of course.
less than then. And he said to me, "I think you're a storyteller."
Yeah.
And I read journalist.
Yeah.
And in those days, in the 80s, journalism meant for me, in my sort of very small mind, was sort of frontline war.
Yes.
And I thought that's not my deal.
Okay, so like you're in the middle of the
No,
battleground.
I'm not doing that. So it took me quite a long time to understand that I really did enjoy hearing stories, telling them myself, and giving a platform for those who have amazing stories.
Yeah.
And I think it started probably more formally around maybe 25 years ago when I went back to university to study. Sorry, I went to university to study photography.
Went back 25 years ago. You went back. That means you
I didn't go the first time. And through my photographic studying, I started interviewing people with photographs and with text. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And it became something that I really, really loved. And I still do.
And you put together themes for these sort of things as well, isn't it? I think I know you've been doing something at the brewery as well.
Yeah, so about 3 or 4 years ago, I wanted to establish a thing called Dare to Share, which is where I would interview in front of a small, intimate audience. Subjects that were quite sensitive and sort of real.
Yes.
And so I hosted 4 of them, but then lockdown happened, so we couldn't carry on. But the subjects that I did was addiction, anorexia, and I had sort of a mom and a son who was an addict, and then I had somebody who had anorexia and somebody who was very overweight, and then I would just mediate the conversation around that.
How did you sort of format it together? Is it a live thing? So you doing a special invitation or people in there?
So I just wanted it to be like a big table, a nice big table around a dinner table, and people talking about real things.
Yeah.
So I tried to emulate that, and I had it in my home, and I had it in a restaurant, and just intimate, maybe 50 people, and they could also ask questions, and it was quite profound actually. I really enjoyed it. But then that stopped with lockdown because...
Yes. Yes. So thank you, Gary. Gary's pushing the microphones up closer to us because he knows that I've forgotten completely about the microphones tonight, because there's all sorts of stuff going on tonight. It's quite exciting tonight.
Okay.
But I mean, the real stories are fascinating to me, because doing this show as well, I felt that doing the longer interviews has been nice to be able to dig into people's psyche,
Yeah, I think as you get older, and I'm certainly getting older, it's more interesting for me to hear the story behind the story, or to understand where the story comes from.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know, I just love it.
No, it is, and it's real, and it also can help people in such a good way. Then, because if people love to, if you expose yourself in a certain way, if you're talking about something personal as well, it also does it exposes you. But people love looking into that and grabbing hold of that because it's so real. It helps them too.
And everybody's got a story.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody's got a story of their own life. They're the narrator of their own lives.
Yeah.
And we're all different and we're all interesting.
Yeah. So now we've decided to try and encapsulate that and try and put it online.
I feel like I'm so red.
Within Gino, no, you're not red at all. It's fine. But no, so we try to put it together in an online setting. I think it's it can be quite fun, and it can have a lot more reach then, you know. So please share this, share the stream, tell your friends to pop on. We want to check your comments as well. We're going to be having little sections where we'll go through comments. There's a Linky McIntosh, can't wait for my show. Linky, she's there at the brewery. Linky, it's going to be such a joy. I cannot wait to get in there because I've got all my characters. This is actually going to be my old man from Bathurst or from Queenstown or wherever he's from, our Johnny, when you use him. And hello from Kleiberga, and Wendy Thompson as well. So I'd love to do a Dare to Share.
Wendy, I will be doing a few more of them. It's different to this. And I will certainly, if you watch out on the YouTube or on Facebook or whatever, you'll find it. I'm going to start them again because they're really lovely.
Love the way you say the YouTube.
Oh,
yes.
Is that
There's
not
lots
okay?
of films on the YouTube, hundreds of them.
Films.
It's Loretta as well saying, how's it when exposing yourself you could be helping someone. You are quite right. Well, when you say exposing yourself, I mean in the right way. Kathleen Booth.
Hey, Kathleen.
Kathleen Booth says, hi, Sam, sending love to see a friend of yours as well.
Yes, very good friend. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
I feel like my good friends are in the room.
They're there. They are it. How's it, Butch, says Sean Keegan. How's it, Sean? Ex-VP as well. That's they went to the right schools. The one that we've decided on here is the unexpected upsides. I think is that the theme for tonight?
I mean, we've got a lot of themes in the background, but this one really resonated with me because it was around, if you're going through a tough time or you've had stuff happen to you, or it's very often you get to the other side and you go, well, there was a silver lining, there was a gift, there was something at the end of it, although you don't know it at the time.
Yes.
And I certainly know with our three guests today that there are numerous stories where they've had struggle or they've had things they've had to go through, and there's a light. And I think that's a universal theme. Yeah.
And of course, we know that Sandy can get a story out of anyone as well. So I'm quite looking forward to this. And we're going to have a little forum where we can have a chat about the stories and ask questions as well. So and like I said, please, if you hear anything that you like or whatever, just pop in a comment. If you want to hear anything, just let me know. I see Catherine Cadle is there saying, Sandy, love Bryce and Catherine. Saying how's it, and Colleen Whitehead, where's the
milk tart?
Did you maak jy 'n bietjie milk tart?
Yeah, I eat it. I ate a lot of milk tart when I was young. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Is that why they're saying you're looking for more there? Yeah. I like milk tart. I could eat a lot of that as well if I had. And like you wonder if you had unlimited milk tart. Yeah, how much
it would be unlimited. It would keep going for me.
Just keep on eating. Tanya Poole saying, how's it? Awesome to see you. I'm in the room with you 8,000 miles away. Whereabouts, Tanya Poole? I want to find out too. And I see Annie van der Merwe there too saying, looking fabulous, Sandy Coffey. Kick some bud. I don't know what she must flowers. You must kick some flowers. I think she meant butt. And there's Monique Besson. How's it, Monique? Monique is framing. She frames some of your stuff as well. Monique Besson's a framing lady. She's what was the name
Creative Gallery.
Yes, Creative Gallery. That's the creative
design. Sorry.
That's it. Mandy Freeman said, and Ronald Minnar, he wakes up at 5 o'clock every morning. Better late than never. Morning, you too. Thank you very much. He wakes up in New Zealand to watch the show. So before he goes out on his day, Ronald, we love you for that. And tonight, today is actually, this morning for you is a very special show. Catherine Cadle says, Catherine Cadle, hello, Sandy, really looking forward to hearing from you and Paul. That's fantastic. And so we've got a whole pile of people online, and we're pretty much ready to go. And I think it's just time to get to our guests.
Let's do it.
Yeah, tell me about the guests.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, so for our first show, I really chose three good friends who I know are not shy. Number one,
yes,
and number two, they're all full of incredible depth and fun and adventure, and they've all got stories. So they were a perfect choice, and none of them have ever met in person. Well, actually, no, I lie. Sorry, Paul Ingpen knows Bella, but from years ago.
Okay, but no, Bella didn't really remember him though. She was like, he was just like, I don't know who that is. You know.
Oh dear.
See, when we spoke backstage, she was like, who's that? What's his story? No, he's just a couple of years junior as well.
Yeah.
So that's why, you know.
So it's Bella Dakin, and Bella lives in Port Elizabeth, and she's a very close friend of mine, and she's been around since our kids were born.
Yes.
Lizzie I met many years ago, but she now lives in London, and Paul lives in Cape Town, and
Okay. Well, let's do a little introduction to Paul then. Paul, how's it, Paul? Nice to have you online.
I'm
Fantastic to have you.
You might be Jim Carrey's twin brother, separated at birth.
Yeah, no.
Everyone says.
I could do that. I've had Jim Carrey. I've also had Al Deba, because I do that thing with the eyes where it's like, what the hell is going on now? I can do that story.
You make me
So
very
Paul, just a quick intro from you. Who are you?
So I am an ex-Eastern Cape schoolboy and university.
Yay.
I really miss the Eastern Cape, Puts and Swars and all the rest. And I've been living in Cape Town. I'm in the sports industry. I'm a publisher of sports magazines, and I present events. I run sports events. So I'm basically very involved in the sports, health, outdoor, lifestyle world. And our motto is we get life outside. It's all about the great outdoors and living your best life, I guess.
Love it.
Life outside. Marvelous. Okay, and then Paul, thank you for that. We're also gonna get on Sandy. Maybe you can give a quick Liz. Tell us a little bit about Liz before we get Liz on.
Okay, so
we're gonna join them all together here quickly.
Okay, so Lizzie is living in London. I can see her there. I know her house very well. I always stay there when I go there. Yeah,
how's it, Liz?
She is.
Hello.
She's also done 62 marathons and broken 62 bones.
62 bones, Liz. What is?
Sandy, I think you're getting that confused. I don't think I have 62 bones. It's very difficult to feel me left.
How many bones have you broken?
Yeah, most limbs. Yeah.
There you go.
Most of the big ones.
So you may very well ask how she's broken those bones, and some of the stories might be revealed tonight.
Oh, I see.
But she's a South African living in London.
Okay, and living in London for the last little while. I think 20 odd years or so.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. And of course, lastly,
Bella.
Indeed.
So I met Bella. Bells. So Bella's a grandmother for the second time. How many days ago?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So she's a double granny. And it was her birthday yesterday. And she's probably the savior for me for staying in Port Elizabeth, because had I not met Bella, I might have been in trouble. But I got more trouble with being with Bella. But it was fun trouble.
Always going to be. And I met Bella at university, indeed. It was 1989, I think.
Yes.
And she was certainly a character back then already. So I look forward to some stories from Bella too.
Oh, my word.
And stayed just up the road here in Warmer, eh?
Yeah.
Very nice. Right, close to home.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you. That's what we're going to do is we're going to kick everyone off now except Paul, because Sandy's going to have a little word with Paul, and we're going to see what stories he can come up with here about unexpected upsides.
Cool. Okay, Paulie, my first question is, how did we meet?
So I was very fortunate to find you at Ironman on the side of the road, clicking away, taking some pictures. You showed me a couple, and I was like, please, can we do some work together? I produced the Triathlon magazine, which is, if anyone goes to the loos and sort of medical practices and all the rest, you're probably going to find my magazine lying around. And the best part of it is the pictures that Sandy's taken over the years that make PE incredible. The Ironman pictures, we've been working together for years since. She's an incredibly talented photographer. And literally, and I'm not blowing smoke up her butt, she is the easiest person to work with you've ever met. She's on the beach, in rock pools, waves bashing over her head, rolls up her sleeves, just shoots away, makes the recipients, the athletes feel very at home. They laugh and smile. She brings out the best of their characters, as she does with all of you guys. She's an amazing person, but an incredibly talented
Jeepers, I feel like you should...
So, yeah, my magazines are full of her pictures. I will show you some. I've got a whole lot of magazines here with me. There's my Triathlon magazine, and
look at that.
wall to wall with pictures by Sandy. So
God.
I'm blessed to be friends with her. She's a kind person. She's always upbeat and fun, and I love it. We come back to Eastern Cape, go to St. Francis. The first person I like bumping into at the sea is Sands.
Jeez, Paul, it's actually about you, not about me, but thank you very much. Okay, so just a couple of questions before we get on to your upside story. Is what really matters to you in life?
So I guess it's kind of weird. I don't know if I'm kind of got a bit of a sort of a calling of sorts, or if I kind of material things don't matter to me. I realized, having been all over the world and having lived on the floor of a Thai and a Malaysian family who literally ate out of the rice paddy below their hut on stilts, that happiness came from within, and that I didn't really need much more in my life but good people around me and my health. And just sunrises, mountaintops, waves, fires, clouds, all natural stuff that's free was more heartening to me than anything else. And I guess I've since then been on a bit of a crusade to just introduce people back to their feelings. So what really matters to me is making somebody look outside and stop stressing about the small stuff. Stop thinking about tomorrow always and live for today, because there's so much around us to be grateful for. And I think as South Africans living in the pandemic, we're stressed about politics, we're stressed about what's going on in our country, overseas, with COVID, with our jobs. We get so caught up in other stuff and worrying about tomorrow and others that we forget about us, we forget about living for now, and we forget to feel. And I think every moment that I can play a role, whether it's my magazines, whether it's the events, whether it's just being with people, to just reintroduce people to feeling in order to live life with some high moments and not always looking forward to tomorrow, where tomorrow could be retirement and perhaps an early end to your life where you didn't feel fulfilled. So yeah, I want people to live before not to live for retirement and driving around on a Contiki tour bus in Europe looking at things they once could have climbed when they were working in a corporate role and never got outside. So that's kind of what matters to me is that.
So I remember when you turned how old? You wrote something on Facebook. It was the most beautiful post that I've seen, and that pretty much was the thrust of it. It was just such a great piece of writing. Did you ever put that into anything more than Facebook? I mean, is there a book in you?
There's definitely, I mean, I often think about a book, but it's so self-indulgent. I almost feel like, who's going to buy the book? And those people, it's a lot of time to write a book. I'd rather kind of influence in numbers right now, whether it's on in a social media post, which I do read, whether it's in my magazine, whether it's just commentating at the events. I do a lot of commentating as well. If there's some little spark that instigates change, that just makes somebody feel okay with being who they are and being about, not worrying about other people's judgments, then that's, the book maybe one day when I've got lots of time, but I can't sit still very long. So
I know.
Maybe if you do it, maybe we collaborate together.
Yeah, I would love that. I'll say yes any day to you. I mean,
Yeah.
Paul, I know you've got 2 daughters, and just what have your daughters taught you?
Wow, that's actually a fantastic, that is actually the reality of, I guess, where the whole concept of selflessness came from. I mean, I'm one of 4 boys. I grew up in an environment of boarding school for most of my childhood. Brothers, so you're basically fighting for airtime, fighting for respect. So you basically believe that achievement is everything. So I went to boarding school at Queen's and St Andrews, 2 schools at the Eastern Cape. I had to become the fastest, strongest, loudest. Achievement was everything, and achievement was what the school decided was achievement. If you didn't have a white blazer, I mean, the rest of the kids had black blazers, you needed to get a white blazer. Then you needed to become head of this, fastest that, get the girl. It was just kind of all external stuff. And I lived with that. I lived with fighting for attention with my own parents, whatever. And you get through life and you become a chameleon. You basically have to live up to expectations of others. So you can become the funny guy in the funny situation. You become, the operator in a business environment. You just basically morph your personality and you forget who you really are. And I think it takes and then kind of you find yourself blaming yourself for relationships that don't work because everything should work and you've got to be the best you can be at everything. When actually, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. And if you just live your true self and you follow your dreams, you will always be happy. And I don't think that came to me until I had kids. It's a bit like dogs. When you've got something with you that gives you unmitigated love, that requires anything else. I mean, dogs don't even speak a language, but yet that unconditional bond is powerful. And when I had daughters, having been in a male-only environment, there was a sense of they were absolutely weak and reliant on me from the day they were born. And you kind of think this is just about giving. It's not about getting. It's not about achieving. It's not about anything more than a pure connection. And when I felt that connection, I think it instigated something I hadn't had for 20 years, growing up in institutions. I mean, I went from boarding school to the military, up on the border, varsity in a men's res, etc. And suddenly, the pheromones, whatever it is, the female energy, the yin yang, whatever it is that connects fathers and daughters.
It's called magic, Paul. It's called magic.
The magic happened, and I woke up to a sense of what could be. And I think that probably was a big part of the instigation of this journey, to get people to feel and to live for the moment.
Yeah, I love that. You've got two amazing daughters. You just finished the Argus with one of them. Oh, sorry, it's called the Cape Town Cycle Tour. Yeah.
In the rain,
Was that
on the
good?
tandem, not easy. Yeah, great. It was my 29th. Slightly obsessive compulsive. I've got to keep going as long as there's a number ticking on, even in the rain, in the wind.
You said it was quite tough, though. You said with your daughter wasn't enjoying it that much, huh?
Yeah, she was over it. There's a certain amount of time where your kids do what you say, and then eventually they get to know themselves. And she did this for me. She said, "I'll do this because it's important to you, but I'm done." Yeah, she suffered away in silence in the back of a very cold and wet day, but I'm very proud of her. And I think it's one day when I'm gone, she'll think to herself, "Dad helped me prove to myself that I could finish something." Because she actually said she would get off. We live in Camps Bay, which is 7.5 kilometers from the finish. And she said, "When you get there, my sister can take my place, or you can go to the end on your own. I'm going home. When I see Mom, I'm out."
Done.
And then Mom and sister said, "Don't be ridiculous. Just go to the finish. You can't not do this." She got to the end. And I think one day when she wants to give up at something else, she's going to think back and think, I could finish stuff that I started.
Yes. That's amazing. And on a tandem, I don't know, the tandem strikes me as like if there's someone at the back that really doesn't want to be there, then it's going to be twice the amount of work for you.
Trust me, my legs are broken. But it's also enormous faith. To have faith, you've got no brakes on the back and no steering. So
Oh my gosh. Only with your father.
Faith to your dad or to whoever's in front. Yeah. So that's a big responsibility.
Good Lord. Yeah, that is a big responsibility. That I don't know if I could trust someone like that. Is it a trust? So it can be a tandem's like a trusting. Kim Robertson, who was my last guest, was also riding tandem with her husband, and that's hectic. No brakes, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I interview sports people pretty much every day of my life, and I've interviewed a few blind people and a few Paralympians who do full speed racing with no sight. So their senses are so sharp, they never see. They talk about. I mean, I asked about a sunset. She said, "No, they sound beautiful. Never seen a sunset. Been to the Olympics. Went to Japan now, to Tokyo, and ran a race where she could sense. She has to just sense where her partner is. They've got a rope connected between the two of them, and that kind of. I mean, she has to every pavement, every stone in the street, whatever. Their senses are so in tune that she sensed that he was falling apart, and that she went from getting a gold medal to a silver medal because he was struggling, and she said she just talked about. She could sense in his breathing and the way he was moving that something was wrong. She ended up being the leader, the blind person leading the leader into the stadium.
Amazing.
And so, I mean, we don't even understand for a second what it's like to have we only miss something when it's gone, and people take for granted. I didn't do my best August time because I had a sore toe and my chamois was a little bit skew on the inside of my shorts, and you're like. I'll show you someone who did it without legs, And then
It's a bit like the adaptive surfers. The blind division is a really, really interesting, where they haven't ever had sight. They don't have a frame of reference, but yet they're catching waves and standing up on boards. It's quite amazing.
And it actually, it just sorry, Senator, I didn't even think of that. A tandem would probably be okay for the blind guys in the back you're talking about as well. Racing like that.
Yeah, so that's how they do it. In a triathlon, they swim with a rope attached, and they run with a rope attached, and then on the bike. For a triathlon, they're on the back of the bike. But I mean, you listen to people like
phenomenal.
that. They are the most energized people. And Pete Duprier just won the Sportsman of the Year award 2 nights ago at SAB. Okay. He lost movement in his body entirely. His little kid of 10 years old fixes his bike while he sits and tells him what to do. He is the happiest guy. He's so fulfilled. That you look at people who've got things taken away from them, and then they strive for everything they can get. And that's the lesson to people who've got it all. Is like, what are you sitting living a mundane life for, drinking beer on the couch every night and going off to work, complaining about your boss, living for Friday, oh God, I hate Monday. If you go through life like that on some sort of treadmill of waiting for one day when your ship comes in or when the sun finally rises, and then that's a pretty sad state. So we can learn a lot from these people.
So that leads you into your story, which is an unexpected upside. Let's hear your story.
So, I mean, you asked me that the other day about unexpected upside, and two that come to mind were, one, when I was, I was traveling the world. I cycled around the world after university. So I rode across China and did most of America and rode up through Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Burma. And on that trip, I used to go as far as I could without working and effectively, go try and operate without money. It's like sort of go lean and mean as long as I could, and then get to a point of no return and get a job, work for a couple of weeks somewhere in the world as whatever. I was a security manager in Mykonos, a restaurant manager in London. I did hurricane installation kits in Hawaii. I've done so many different kinds of work, which was wonderful. But I got to California having been right the way down Highway 101 and went hiking and mountain biking in Banff and Jasper. And it's an actually highly underrated country, America, especially the West Coast. The adventure zones there are Yellowstone National Park, Arches Monument. It's incredible. So eventually I got to California and got to the airport in Los Angeles, and I had no money left. I think I had $7. So I had a Flex ticket, and I got on the plane thinking, well, I'm now going to Hawaii. It'll work out somehow. And I got on this plane, and halfway across, I was kind of thinking, oof, this is going to be a bit tight. I've never had no money. So I said to the lady in the seat next to me, I said, have you any idea how much it costs to get into Honolulu? And she said, yeah, it's $7. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to arrive in a country I was going to do the Ironman. I'd sent my bike onto Kona, and I was kind of like, so I'm going to have no money after I get into town. Now I'm literally a burgie. I'm going to sleep on a park bench. I'm gonna put my hands up for a chow, and I'm gonna wing it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And when she was asking questions about why are you asking, I said, well, I'm coming in. Oh, where you from? Where you from? And I'd say, well, I'm actually from South Africa. Oh my God, do you ride elephants to work? Like, and then I was like, oh, okay, here we go, Buffalo Bull. I'll kind of Crocodile Dundee this and tell them a couple of amazing stories. And in the conversation, the person two down said, wow, do you need work or something? And I said, yeah, actually, I'm going to really need work. And
got $7 minus $7.
Yeah, and she was a young girl, and she was like 20, and I was 23 or whatever. And we walked over to the turnstiles, and my bags were coming around, and I was thinking, Jesus, this is going to be a hectic one. In a completely foreign country, don't know what the police are like. And I saw her come up and say, have you got somewhere to stay? And I said, actually, no, only park benches. And she went over and she came back to me and she said, my dad says you can stay on the yacht.
Bastard.
No ways. Paul, that's landing on your feet and in the butter.
In the butter.
Oh my God.
And tell me, did you ever have a girlfriend, boyfriend?
No, actually, funny enough, she was extremely bright. She worked in France. She was It was university in Paris, but anyway, what happened out of that?
Totally not your type then.
That's too bright for me. I was a sapper, a jock. So I went to his place, and after a couple of days, he gave me a job cleaning the bottom of his boat, and his boat was anchored just off Waikiki Beach, cracking surf, and he said I could work flexi time when the surf wasn't good. I was just cleaning the bottom of his yacht. Happy days. But what really came out of this is he owned an architecture firm in Waikiki, and he was a very deep spiritual guy, very successful guy, but very spiritual. And he asked me a lot of very tough questions. And I was 23. I'd been through the army. I was going to go and live overseas to avoid South Africa. I'd been on township duty. I'd been on the border. I'd seen stuff that I just knew South Africa wasn't going to be a place I wanted to live. Mandela was still in jail. I wanted to live somewhere else in the world. I wanted to find a place to live. And he started asking me some really hard questions. And we had hours, and we had sunsets, and we had moments on the deck where it was just him and I. She went back to university. I stayed with him 2 months in the end. I worked from there. And he opened my eyes. He asked me questions that I had never thought about. My own parents, my university, my schools. No one had ever really given me the University of Life, which is someone who's completely got no interest in you. They don't care about the fact that you were the fastest swimmer in your school or that you won this or that you were ahead of anything. He just was me and him as humans, and he passed on so much potent wisdom, one of which was, sort of derailing my fear of selling. He said, look, what's wrong with selling? Every business is selling. And what if you sell something you love? And you don't have to feel like you're selling insurance. And we had this chat about sales because I was at a version and a thing about people with little black suitcases. And he actually he changed my mind about that. I came back to South Africa to work in media, worked in a sports industry thing, which is a whole nother story because I'd met the Australian rugby team while I was traveling. And I just had so many serendipitous experiences from putting myself out there. That when I came
now you
back,
like the Aussies, eh? Now you like the Aussies.
That's the answer. Absolutely. So came back, got a job in the sports industry, and my life changed completely because of one conversation on the plane when I had nothing. And I would probably, if I'd had money, gone and stayed in a B&B, carried on my life, and still be sitting in corporate today. So that was lovely.
So what's the lesson?
So I think the lesson is to always put yourself out into uncomfortable spaces. I think I could easily have booked a ticket straight back to South Africa. I could have kind of panicked and gone straight to the embassy or something like that. But I think if you believe that the sun will always rise, then losing your job or having an injury or whatever it may be, being blind like the guys I spoke about just now, is never going to be an issue. Because if you've got a half a brain and you are driven by what you love, you will always end up on your feet. Yeah. You never meet a friend who's got it together begging at a stop street. If you follow your passion, the business will come. Gino makes money out of being funny and having a jaw. I mean, once upon a time, his parents would have said, "Oh, you nuts, get a job, go to work in a corporate."
Oh, many times.
Yeah. So that was very important. And then years later, in corporate, I got shafted on a couple of deals, and eventually thought I can't trust people. There was a whole circulation scandal involving one of my superiors in the Media 24 group and Wow. And I just felt that I'd put too many years into a company launching brands. I launched Bicycling Magazine and also Runner's World and another. And I just thought, I've got to go on my own. And my wife said, "Are you nuts? Our kids are at schools. We've got bonds to pay. But the bank owns our house." And I said, "I'm done. I'm not going to, I can't trust people. I've got to believe in myself. I'm going to make this work." And that was 12 years ago. My business is now 12 years old. I've been on my own for 12 years. And every morning I choose if I'm going to go and paddle to watch whales or if I'm going to get on the email and do work. So again,
sure, what a great choice.
Very stressful. I had corporate, HR situations and people telling you're wrong. Obviously you're wrong because the boss is always right. I was bullied in a corporate level and I was very unhappy. I remember being deeply depressed. It was terribly stressful because my whole life had been spent on building these sports properties and the sports industry, and I adored the sports industry and I had set my heart on it, and I thought, I haven't got another alternative, but it felt so good freeing myself of the shackles of what I thought I needed, which was stability and income. Yeah. And I could actually produce the magazines that I wanted to produce and produce the events that I wanted to do and not always have to go through a board who actually said to me at the time, even though American content is getting out of flavor, do your job. And I was like, there was a time when everything American sold in South Africa, those days are done. It's got to be homespun. It's got to be real. It's got to connect. It's got to emotionally connect. Our magazines, I'm not speaking to that audience anymore. I want to do my own thing. And they said, well, there's the door. You're welcome whenever you like. And thank God I opened that door because it was the biggest, widest, happy-making door. And I couldn't be happier.
Ever. And so if there's somebody's watching now or later the recording and he's a 25-year-old wanting to leave his corporate job and do what he loves, what do you say?
So I actually had an interesting dinner. A few years ago, I was invited to be a guest speaker in Joburg to a bunch of young black kids who were all given bursaries. So, but big bursaries to go and work 3-4 year degrees straight into Ernst & Young, straight into Investec. And somebody called me up and said, listen, I want you to come and talk about your best life to these kids. It was in Joburg.
It's a great subject.
Yeah. And I went up there and I sat there. These kids were dressed in Louis Vuitton. I don't know what they were wearing. Hugo Boss suits. They were all drinking the finest 12, 15 to whatever 1,000-year black labels, blue labels. Their chicks were all dressed up in Jimmy Choo's. these guys were on it. They were driving fast cars, and I stood up there, and instead of talking to that, I just talked about people I knew who, like you, Sands, who lives your passion, and when you're shooting, whatever you're shooting with emotional connection and feeling the subject, I spoke about how important that is, and how important it is to feel and look forward to every morning and live your dream. And exactly what I've been talking about, I spoke about. I just chose to speak about that. Well, the cue, when I sat down, every single one of these kids wanted to talk and say, I'm not happy. My father said he grew up in apartheid. He had no money. I've been given a line in life. Now he's saying, where's my Porsche? Where's my money? I must pay for the family. He said, I'm sitting here in a corporate environment. I'm playing the game, but I'm actually longing to be in the Transkei on my farm, or I'm longing to play a musical instrument. I don't want this. I don't like this. I'm not happy. And honestly, I think 10 out of the 12 kids who came to talk were saying, I just want to be happy. Like, I don't feel happy. I don't look forward to Monday. I'm getting through every day as a grind. When it's 5 o'clock, I run away. And so,
I wonder how many of them have left their jobs.
I'd
love to have followed that, to see what the end result was.
It is very apparent that people don't, they follow other people's dreams. They follow a direction that grandpa or father or somebody said, to be successful, you need to be a lawyer or a doctor or a blah, blah. And it takes their whole lives, perhaps never finding what truly makes them happy.
Yeah, so what would your 80-year-old self tell you today?
To take my time. I feel like it's running out too fast. And so I've definitely had a heavy midlife crisis at 50. But it's been, I look at 80-year-olds, and we've had a couple pass away during COVID, and some of them live full lives, but I'm aware of how much there is to do, how much to squeeze into every moment, that I think to spend any time bickering, complaining, worrying, there just isn't time. You've just, I want to squeeze suck the marrow out of every day I'm given above ground. And that means hugging my kids, kissing them, telling them I love them, producing content, interviewing interesting people who've got cool shit to share. That's all I care about. And I want loads of days, so 80 can wait. I'm not in a hurry at all.
And I don't think you should be, and I hope that you have a long time on this earth, Paul, because what you do is amazing. I've seen you in full flight as well, when you've been commentating at Ironman, when you've been doing the sport. I mean, it's just such a joy to watch you, because you're one of the people that I know that most keep your health together. You're so fit, you eat well, you eat consciously, you keep a balance, you are able to do an Argus and then go and do something else amazing on the same day. And so what is the secret of that? How do you get that right?
Yeah, so I'm not obsessive at all. As you say, that I'm the first one to tuck into, I actually eat 3 pies. There's a pie shop just outside Cape Town in Grabo and most people feel guilty about having 1. I generally have 3. But
that's because you run 3 times more than anyone else.
No, I eat crap when I need. I'm conscious, because I always think calories in, calories out. So the more I eat, the more I've got to train. It's beautiful. I just get out there more. And so eating, I just think I'm not obsessive about where I come. If I have a bad year where I've had too much work on my plate or whatever it is, I just readjust my goals and think, well, I must just chase the person in front of me, because whether it's Gino and he's my arch rival because we went to VP together and I want to beat him.
You're not.
He's not going to be there always. So ultimately, I'm chasing my own shadow. And all I want to do is be the best I can be in everything I do, and try and improve and learn from people and mistakes all the time, embrace mistakes. And just so if I'm having a bad year, I don't think I'm going to do too well, and I don't go in there with the expectation. And I don't not start because I'm not perfectly ready, because you're never perfectly ready. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. So I just get in there, get ahead with it, and make sure that I'm enjoying. I look around, like now in the August, I was just looking at this amazing clouds and the rain and the sea and the people around us, going through their little. It was just beautiful, and that's what life is. There's sunshine in every storm, And so, I think it's just when I wake up in the morning, I look outside and think, if it's howling, the forests are going to be amazing. I'll go and run in the forest. So, and I'm not doing it because I don't weigh myself ever. I just get outside and do something, because those endorphins trigger such positive thoughts and clarity. Like if I have a busy work schedule and a 1,000-mile to-do list, often one run of me time, which is like my meditation time, I get this clarity of there's one thing on my mind that's bugging me. I need to solve that issue with that guy or this staff member or this deal, and everything else kind of falls into place around that. But otherwise, if you live in this horrible sort of this routine that a lot of people do, which is lots of coffee in the morning to get going. Excuse the pun there, Sans. I mean,
thanks.
The wrong kind of coffee. I could deal with you every morning. But going to bed and then finishing the day on a sort of fake high with caffeine and then drinking wine to come down again. I mean, that's adrenal fatigue in a bottle. So I think if you get outside and move, the endorphins create that positive sense, like that brigadier who once said, just make your bed. A sense of accomplishment because you did one thing that was constructive in the morning. And that sets a positive tone. And then you've got time to think about, giving, etc., because you're not stuck in worrying and stressing about tomorrow. Tomorrow will come, but deal with today.
And so before we invite the others in to come and chat as well, I've got one last question for you, which is what is the one single word that you most identify with?
I'm going to say probably energy. I think energy, we all have a lot of energy in ourselves, but I think a lot of people stifle that energy. So there's energy, but energy breeds energy. So exercise, funny enough, exercise is typical of that. So exercise doesn't make you tired. It breaks you down that little bit in order for your body to build up and get stronger. So energy builds energy. So positive people, and that's why I think surrounding yourself by people who stress you out, trying to argue and debate something with a fool, or anything that somebody's critical, if you own yourself, you say, well, that's me. That like me or leave me. But the old boarding school me would have said, you need to like me, because if I'm not liked by everyone around me, I'm not going to survive. It's like prison. And I think when you finally find your own emancipation, these are my people and those aren't necessarily. I can be okay with that. Being okay with
You've had the most beautiful midlife crisis. Feels like it's a successful one.
And I hope it helps people have them younger, because it'd be much better to get the stuff out of the way at 20 than wait until 50.
Yeah.
So I think Gary's going to
bring on
So tell us about this photograph.
Some photos.
Where'd you go? Okay. So I do a lot of, that's actually an event where I was the MC, and it's got a whole retro theme. So I'm at the finish line when I welcome the athletes in. I think that young girl just said, can I have a selfie with you? And she's just beaming with joy, and she's not worrying about her time. I don't think she's worrying about what her old school friend or her headmaster who called her a loser would think. She's just in the moment. And so we're just celebrating the moment at the finish line.
That's beautiful.
Welcome to my life.
And energy.
That's a great shot. It's a great shot, Paul. Okay, so we're going to bring on Lizzie and Bella and you.
Yes.
You have a round of questions. Is there anything that you want to bring up that Paul has spoken about, or anything that's piqued your interest?
I'll tell you what, I loved the fact that you were talking about the corporates. I've got a mate who's going through something like this, and it rings so true. And that as a comedian as well, the gigs have always just fallen out the sky. Paul. It's like I've never been in that corporate thing, and I think it can be quite stifling if you don't love what you do. You don't, there are many people that work in corporate environment that are enjoying it, and it's fine, but it's sometimes so stifling, and a lot of people are unhappy working in that environment, that structured thing. And if you just step out and set yourself free, put yourself on the line, often it's it makes it so much better in the end. You're so much happier inside.
Yeah, if I can comment on that, sorry, go for it.
You are so unbelievably motivated. What do you do for downtime?
So funny enough, people often call me like an extreme extrovert, but I'm actually not. I'm sort of an introvert extrovert. I really like my own time. So I'll choose to rather go and paddle in the sea for an hour and a half or 2 hours or 5 hours following whales on my own rather than a group session. That's my downtime. So
I like that too.
Yeah, I like time alone, even though when I'm amongst people, I then make up for it by talking a lot and making a lot of noise.
I'm a socialite. How about you, Bella?
I'm definitely one of those.
A socialite.
I love fun. I don't know about a socialite.
Okay,
I love my friends and my family.
Yes, around
and fun.
people.
Yeah.
I will say, give me the people. I can't go chase whales on my own.
No, I don't mind doing that on my own, but I'm not a swimmer.
Bells, I feel like you could have an excursion with Paul. I feel like, because you've also got a big adventurous spirit. Can you imagine?
Yeah, we would have lots of fun. I love Paul's energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
he said. But
Amazing.
you two met at school, right?
Yes, well,
She
Paul
didn't know who the hell I
reminded
was.
me. You reminded
She
me
was the main chick.
that you were at school, but you were younger than me, and I know your beautiful wife. Yeah, so I mean, we could have lots of fun together.
As it were, you know.
Count me in. I think you've got to get in the back of a double and we'll do the Fish River Challenge. I've heard it's the best race in South Africa and it's in the Eastern Cape from Cradock and all the rest.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have to have a proper life jacket, that's all I'm
I'll
saying.
do it with you. I've already done a few.
I've also done the gig there once or twice with the big party with all the road students with all their overalls on.
I'll take you up the Winterberg where I come from. I've got a niece who cycles and runs like a goat, a mountain goat.
She rides like a goat.
No, she runs up the mountains like radically. She's ran with Ingpen or what's her name?
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I have to have a drink. This conversation's going south.
No, you must come visit us up in the mountains then.
Well,
You'll
you
love
know,
it.
we all know that the Eastern Cape produces South Africa's finest sports people by miles. I mean, most Springbok cricketers, rugby, athletes, you talk to them, when you interview, find out where they grew up, Eastern Cape, 5 out of 10 easily. Incredible.
Wow.
Man.
Well, I think we've got some comments as well, Gary. I think we must just have a quick squiz while we're here in the group chat to have a look at some of the comments. So I was talking about cricket. I saw Mike Fires van Vuren on here earlier on. I spot. There we go. Did a great chat. Very interesting. Well done, Alex. That is our legendary fast bowler, Mike Fires van Vuren, who used to also come in at the late order and smack a couple of sixes. Keith Clark saying, how's it as well? Keith provides us with some of our gin here that we've got too. But Keith's also a soccer guy and he knows everybody in town here. So he knows all over the bloody country.
Hello, Keith.
I don't know where he is. Where are you at the moment, Keith? Justin Moore saying, hey, Bella, it's been a while. There we go. It's one for you, Bella. Extra love for you.
Hey, Joe.
There we go.
Potato.
Davina is watching. There we go. Davina Coombs is watching as well.
Yeah.
Mandy Dalton saying, just improved my home ironing session. I don't know if
She lives in Canada.
Oh, right. Well, that makes you an iron woman. And Mandy Dalton, you are an iron woman. There we go. James Hempel saying, how's it as well? Hello, Lizzie, says Wendy Shawn. They've got a group account, Wendy Shawn.
That's my sister.
Is it your sister? You must tell her she must trust her husband. If you have his own Facebook account. There we go. I think it's fear holding people back from exploring the eternal happiness Paul spoke about. Do you think so, Paul?
Yeah, I do. I think it's fear inspired by a well-meaning headmaster, parent, the whole system. Our whole childhood is based on performance. Results. Are you in the first team rugby? Did you get colours? Did you win? Did you win? And I think people are so externally based they forget about themselves, and the fear of stepping into a space where they might be humiliated or lose is unbearable. So they just follow the mainstream and suck along with the flow until it's done.
Yeah.
But isn't that up to us parents these days and the young parents of today to educate their kids and support them in doing different things without having to feel that pressure,
Geez, Bella, look how many people have struggled to until the last couple of years, to just be open about being gay or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's a massive hurdle to change. To deal with. Families are not very open to sort of having the kind of the norms, the rules broken, etc. There's a huge amount of change going on, I think, where parents are having to deal with the stuff that might seem alien. A lot of the old school are going, oh, my ridiculous, these kids are just confused. But finding your true self is proving more than ever during lockdown to be not an easy subject.
Changing your whole way of thinking, it's that thing that you've got to try and stand back from yourself, and then say, hang on, because it's almost like exponentially in your mind it changes all these things. It's like when you knock a wall down in your house, and then you realize that you're knocking down a wall that's holding that roof, and that roof is connected to that and that thing, and then the next thing half your house is gone. But it's like you've got to make those decisions and then rework everything, rebuild everything, in your mind.
It's long overdue that we have change of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that, Gino. We were talking about you being. Have you ever watched Jim Carrey's talk to the university students that graduated?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just watch that. There's a comedian talking about some very real stuff, because comedians are able to look into the sort of funny and the both sides of everything, and that it's actually extremely enlightening to see the depth of thought. It's not just a silly guy. He's kind of exploring so many aspects, and in the process, I think breaking down his own boundaries and then becoming so in touch with his true self that speech is one of the most powerful speeches you could ever listen to.
No, it is. It's amazing. He is amazing.
Funny because it's sad. That's often the thing with comedy. It's like, it's funny because it's real and sad, and it's like it can you can attack these terrible things, but in comedy it sort of gives you a bit of license, and so it does make you think about it a bit more.
Makes it a bit lighter. Paul, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And you're going to stay on because you're going to hear the others and you can interact with them as well.
You're going to stay backstage. I think Paul's going back. We're going to take Paul backstage.
But Paul, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, he's gone already. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, he's there. Okay. Jeez, they got rid of him quickly. Paul, thank you for sharing all that. I expected you to come up with that, but I didn't realize you had that much, which was so fantastic to hear. I think your midlife crisis has served you very, very well.
Bloody marvelous. I hope my one's going to be okay. When I get to 50.
Jeez, I've bypassed. I've had 2.
No, I'm 50. I'm 52 this year. So I don't know. I'm waiting for it, Paul. It's going to land on my head very, very short. In fact, it has already actually.
Embrace it.
Yeah, I'm going to. That's fine. It's fine.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, so Paul, we're going to put you backstage, and your next guest.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Where's Lizzie?
Liz has been on.
Is it Lizzie?
Going back again. We're going to get her back.
Oh,
looking lovely,
yeah.
and then very soft background and soft colours. Lovely sort of sort of throwback to like, I don't know, like 60s kind of vibe going on the top there, and everything's very nice.
So Lizzie, just as an introduction. So just describe yourself in 3 words.
Loud, energetic, and kind.
Just repeat that last word.
She said kind. She said kind.
Okay, so just to get a little bit more about you, if you could choose to be anybody else for one day, who would it be and why?
Actually, I spoke about it with the kids today. I'd like to be my 3 sons.
All 3 of them?
All 3 of them.
Like me. And I'd like to see what they experience having me as a mother. Because they think about it all the time. And I'm going to be...
Lizzie, I'm quite sure they've told you.
Yes, no.
And what did they say?
Actually, one son said something really nice. He said, if Dad had been the only one around, we'd be spoiled brats. He said, but you kept us grounded, which was really nice.
That is a very, very beautiful compliment.
A bit of a backhanded compliment, I think.
Yeah.
And Lizzie, in your recollection, how did you and I meet?
Tony, it was at that speech-making course. And it didn't take long for both of us to realize it was a lousy course. But we really
was terrible.
And that was the end of it.
I know. And that was about 35 years ago, I think, maybe.
Long time.
So, so we've been connected for a very, very long time over many experiences, and a lot of bottles of wine. Always. Lizzie, I want you to, I know it's not your story, but that you were going to tell, but I do want you to tell the story because it actually explains who you are as a person. I know you've done 64 marathons, but I want you to explain about your very first marathon, how that came about.
So Mike and my 2 sisters ran lots of marathons.
Mike is your husband.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike's my husband, yeah.
Okay.
And they were always training, and I have a twin, and they'd all done the comrades, and I was a very conscientious seconder. I would carb load with all of them, drink all the beers, and that's about as far as it got. Anyway, it was New Year's Eve one night, and my twin sister Jenny said, "Now come on, Liz, it's time." And she started training me the next day, and I ran 400 meters, and I got a stitch, collapsed, and said, "This is not my gig."
400
And
meters.
she persevered, and we set our sights for the Two Oceans marathon. But you'll all know.
She's 400 meters to Two Oceans. Is quite something.
That's a 56, isn't it?
You guys all know you have to qualify on a normal marathon in 4.5 hours before you can enter into an ultra. So I started training in secret. Jenny, my twin.
Why?
Oh, sorry, it was to surprise Mike. We weren't going to tell you at all. So
Because I think I remember that Mike said, "Oh, Lizzie will never do it."
Oh, no. That's not going to happen. And I joined his running club, and all our running mates knew the chairman and chairlady of the club. I got their club, because in South Africa you have to run in your club colours.
Yes, which club was it?
RAC, Rand Athletic Club.
Okay. Excellent.
And I hid all my running clothes in our maid's room. I was pretty sure Mike wasn't going to venture into that area. And I used to train a couple of times a week. And I had like a tan around my ankles because in South Africa. So I had instant tan lotion over my feet. And it ruined all my lovely Egyptian geese, cotton sheets and what have you. Anyway, we started training. And then I'd run my first 5Ks and then my first 10Ks. And I could never tell Mike because it was all this big secret. Anyway, it got to the qualifying marathon. It was the pick and pay.
Sorry, can I just stop you there, Lizzie? When you lost all the weight, because you lost weight didn't he think that you were having an affair or something? Didn't he say, "What are you looking so good?"
You know, the thing is, I could actually just have an affair. Mike never noticed any of it. Honestly, I could actually have an affair.
You were actually, but it was with running.
Yeah. I used to run sometimes and I'd see his car coming out, dive into a neighbor's bush. It went on for months. And then it goes training. And finally, it comes to the pick and pay full marathon. And Jenny had done an Ironman the day before. So
That's your sister.
My twin, yeah. So she could only come on a bicycle to second me. And I'd said to Mike, "Look, I'm not going to second you tomorrow. I'm tired of all the second. I've just seconded for so many years." And he was really miserable. He said, "But who's going to give me my bananas and my what?" Anyway, he stopped off to the marathon, and I jumped out of bed, put my things on, my RAC clothes, and then Mike came back for something. So I had to dive back under the sheets, close it all up in here. And then he was gone, and I was off again. But in South Africa, well, you guys all know that, the end of races, it's different here. You run your race, and you just go home. But you know what it's like in SA, at the end of every marathon, all the clubs bring their umbrellas,
gazebos, yes,
rye and beers, and it's ages. And they had put Mike there, and I had to work out to get past him quickly.
Because you were going to beat him.
Well, actually, I started, it must be told, right at the front line. Because I've heard that you lose about 5 minutes when the gun goes off. And I stood with Bruce Fordyce and all those boys. And I just thought, and they've all got like 10 marathons or whatever on their pub, and I've got 0.
None.
Good morning. And when the race started, they all just took off. And I fell further back. And Mike and one of his friends actually passed me, but his friend organised not to see me. And as I came around the stadium, I was so tired. I had to run like hell to pass RAC so that Mike wouldn't see me. And I was home, showered, and in bed by the time he got home. And he said, "I can't believe you're still in bed." He said, "Just I've invited you over for a ride, and you're going to have to do it all because, you know, I'm just going to work." And I couldn't move. My legs were just seized. And everybody at the bar was saying, "Oh, get us a beer, Liz. Yeah, get us a beer."
They knew.
We used to go to dinner parties after that, and people would say, "Have you heard that story about the woman who..." And Mike would say, "Yes, I've heard it."
Oh, that's a great story.
Well, when did he find out then?
Oh, sorry, at the Two Oceans.
Yes.
Yes, so we go for the carbo loading and all the rest of it. We're in Cape Town,
The night before, huh?
Night before, yeah. And
Night before. So she's done the marathon.
Okay, because that was a qualification marathon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. I've qualified. I'm now a genuine runner. And we're in Cape Town doing all the carbonating, and in front of everyone and all Mike's running friends, I said, look, Bab, I've been working on a present for you. It's taken me about six months and it's nearly ready. And Mike's a quiet guy. He doesn't like attention. And this is his worst nightmare. So he says, well, where's the present? I said, well, I'm the present and wrap me. And this is just not what he likes. And he started pulling my zip down, and I had my race numbers pinned on underneath. But here comes the best part. We're doing the race with my two sisters, Mike and me. We're all running together, and we get to sort of Constantia, and Mike gets cramped. He said, Lizzie, you must go. There's big trouble ahead still. There's those big hills. I said, no, we're running together. We're going to run the whole way. He said, Liz, I know what's ahead. I'll go. So he's holding an argument. And the crowds are saying, go! The others are saying, stay! So anyway, I went ahead with my two sisters. And as we get to Harmon Road, which is the road that takes you into the stadium, I said to my sisters, listen, we've got about 5 minutes. I'm going to wait. Mike just might come. And they said, well, then we're going to wait too. So we stopped. And the crowds go through. Because you've still got about 3.5 minutes around a stadium. And blow me down if this guy doesn't appear. With that
no ways.
And we all finished together.
Oh, wow.
Classic.
Oh, it was lovely. But the little shit, you know what he did? So when you go in at the finish line, you go through those turnstiles. And in the photographs, Mike's like this with the girls, got the girls home. Like this.
Right,
so
yeah, of course.
Turnstile first. So he's in the newspaper the next day, he beat me.
Oh, Lizzie.
I love it.
And now you've done how many marathons?
62. Yeah.
And how many of those are ultras?
5 comrades, and about another, 5, 10. I was actually going for my PB for comrades 1 year, and then we were on our way to Mid-Marmal to swim there 2 weeks before comrades, and I tripped on a mat that had a hole in it. We had just arrived, and I shattered my kneecap, which is 7 pieces. And you learn pain when you're running. Paul will agree with me. And look, it was bloody sore, but I didn't think it was that bad. And there's a whole lot of us staying over in Boschhoek, and Mike was flying in the next day. And I said to them, look, just get my leg splintered, keep it straight, but then when we go tomorrow, you can fetch Mike and I'll go to the hospital. Anyway, they arrived at this hospital, and I said to the doctor, look, I've got 2 weeks before comrades, so, I'll be okay. And then he saw the x-rays. He says, you're not ever going to run the mother's race at school.
And did you?
Oh, yes. I had a fabulous doctor, really good. In fact, I saw a lot of surgeons in Natal, and it was too much for them to handle. So they sent me to a guy in Joburg, and I read the report. A very feisty young woman, these are the problems. Thank you for taking over. and it was, at that time, so I got a leg in full plaster cast from head to toe for 6 months. Then our first son went on a play date with a friend, and the mother phoned hysterically and said he had slipped on some tiles and some sort of bone was sticking out of his leg.
Oh,
and then the third child,
some sort of bone.
The third child, all in the same 2 weeks. He phoned the school phone and said he'd slipped off the jungle gym and his arm looked funny. So they had a pin plate. He had surgery. And then James, who was only about 3, he was pushing, those little black trucks all our kids had.
Yes.
Pushing this thing, but with a bit too much vomit, and he overshot the runway, and he took all the skin off his side of his face. So now we're all medically
attended.
And my husband Mark says, "This is no conjugal rights, not happening. It's
no more.
Not going to happen.
Dangerous, not coming anywhere." And he was moved to the far side of the house, all on his own, where with nobody around him, he walked into a doorway and broke his toe.
Your whole family was down and out.
We've got a picture of all 5 of us.
No ways.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
Jeez, Lizzie. But I remember when you were recovering from breast cancer, you were in hospital. Didn't you have your son had a shunt in his head and you were both in the hospital together?
Yes, yes. So I'd had a boob job when I'd stopped breastfeeding. And these things saved my life because the tumor hit it, so it came outwards, so I could feel it early.
Yeah.
But why I'm telling you that, because this is quite a big share on, live TV. My boys are very practical, and I'd said to them, look, I've got a boob now, but I'm not going to have a boob when I come out of hospital. And I said, there's a big bubble in my boob, like a bag, a ball. And they said, well, what is this? And I said, well, it is what it is. So they said, well, we want to see it and we want to play football with it. So
They were young, clearly.
I had kids 3, 5, and 7, so I thought they must deal with this how they understand it. So I said, I'll get that football and I'll show it to you and you'll play football. So I said to the surgeons, look, my children want the implant because they want to play football. Now you can understand, this is England. You never in England do you release a body part into the environment. But I stood my ground. I said, it's my implant and I want it. And sure enough, when I woke up next to my bed with my implant.
Classic.
But anyway, we got through it all. And then our son had a really bad brain hemorrhage in the middle of it all. So it was a tough time. I had just finished chemo. And remember, we'd only been in this country for a year or 2. So it was hectic.
Sure.
And chemo, and then Andrew had all these dramas. So he was in hospital, he had many operations, but I used to sleep on the floor next to his bed and then drive 2 counties every day to go and get radiation to fix my problem. And I was so knackered that eventually one day he was in this ICU ward. The doctors came on their rounds, and there's the patient, Andrew, with his bandages and everything, saying, shh.
My mom's sleeping.
Oh, shame. She's like, when?
Who are you talking to, Lizzie?
Andrew, he quickly came. I screamed at him to come and check my internet.
You think it was you?
No, it was us. Your internet is beautiful. It was ours.
Ours is a problem.
Load shedding, we never know where it's going to hit, and so it could hit a frog foot there or a thing
Is there
there.
ice? Oh, there's ice there.
You never know.
So Lizzie,
so just quickly near the end, so we both recovered, we both fine, and I decided to do the marathon walk to raise money.
Oh, for cancer.
And it was really sweet. The minimum donation was £5, and I came down one stairs and I found Andrew, the one who did pulling with pliers, pulling a tooth out of his face. Because he'd had £3, but he needed an extra 2 so that he could donate for the £5.
Oh.
The other 2 didn't offer anything. No.
Because there's always one in the family that's the generous one, right?
How cool is that, eh? God, that would be
Lizzie, I love that story, and thank you for sharing. Because there's a lot of poignancy in that, and a lot of depth in that as well. I know it sounds sort of humorous and everything else, but there's a hell of a lot that underpins that. But tell us your story of the unexpected upside.
Oh, that had to be when we moved to England. Phew, that was tough. It was 21 years ago. And Mike was working from home, and I've never had a traveling husband before. My husband was home every night for supper in South Africa. That's all I knew. But he started doing a JV with someone here in the UK. And Mike is in property. And I think he was a bit worried and he wanted to sort of spread our risk. And then, moment down, he started flying to the UK every now and then and going on business trips. But anyway, it was all fine. And he kept saying, I wonder if we shouldn't move to England. Oh, and I cut him dead. Dead. I didn't even let him entertain. No, never. So eventually one day, his business partner, who were friends of ours, they'd come back to South Africa to visit, and I popped in for a drink. And this guy says, Rod, he says, we're so excited about Mike on board and you guys coming over. And I just went,
Oh my gosh.
you know, when it's like that burning in your tummy, and where you know you're going to the headmaster, it's going to be bad, but it's going to happen. It is going to happen. I think I'd always known. I said, Rod, sit down. Oh, shame, this poor fella. So I forced it all out of him. And then I phoned Mike and I said, come home early. He went, oh, okay.
You know something's up.
No, not okay. I've just spoken to Rod. And I kid you not, 3 weeks later, we were in England looking at schools. It was that fast.
Wow.
We saw 21 schools in 3 days, all half state, half private, because James, he's our youngest, little one, Andrew, he hadn't even got past kicking king, and everyone his age were reading at 5 here, because they start school at 4. And at the airport, Mike had said, honey, I don't think I told you, but I actually need to go to Scotland to do something, so you're on your own here. So it was hectic.
Sheepers.
And I happened to have my sewing tape measure in my handbag, and that's all I had to measure how furniture would fit in, to various places. And you know what's like South Africa, from big homes to matchboxes here. And you must also remember it was 20-1. So the rand was eye-watering. And yeah, literally 2 months later we were moving, and we got here, and we left 37 degrees, and 11 hours later we were at -7. It was mind-boggling. And our kids had never been on international aeroplanes. So when we got on the plane, they're little, they're 3, 5, and 7. Andrew straight away, sits on the biggest chairs that come. I said, no, Cookie, that's first class. We're going there. We last class.
Oh,
And
Last class.
we got to this place. I'd found a place for us to stay, and we set the container off. We split our stuff, and stuff was in storage, and a 40-foot container was waiting outside this little flat apartment thing 2 hours after landing in this foreign country where we didn't know anybody.
wow.
And we had tried to make it a whole big excitement for the kids. Not so exciting for me. And we'd said to the boys, run in and go and choose your rooms. And they were out again about 30 seconds later saying, where's the rest of the house? Seriously? And then these packers were so nice. They were some Coffey guys. And I just said, cool, guys, I'm struggling a bit here. Oh, and I'd just given up smoking at the airport. So the kids had the whole thing.
At the airport when you landed?
Before
Bad
we
time.
left, it's crashing.
Geez, even worse.
And everything. And it got into 3 hours in, and I thought, this is not the time to stop smoking. So when the movers went into their van, I said, look, I want whatever you're smoking, just shut the door because my kids can't see me. And they had some nice homegrown, and by the time I got out of there, I was flying. I love England. So look, where do you want the wardrobe? I said, surprise me.
Surprise me.
I think you'd have loved Jamaica.
Lizzie, what's been... Yeah?
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say, what's the thing you miss about home the most? This home?
South Africa. Well, I mean, it's obvious to say family. It's been 21 years. I'm not going to say family because that's too obvious, but I have an incredible sisterhood of girlfriends. We call ourselves the sisters, and we all came here when we turned 50 10 years ago to celebrate together, and we're going to do it again now at 60, and we're all over the world now. And
Are you turning 60 this year, Lizzie?
I am indeed. I am.
Gosh.
And yeah, I miss them a lot. I mean, they're true.
Yeah.
They're true. You've known them since our kids were this high. They've known everything. Lovely. Total acceptance.
And what do you love about the UK?
For Mark, it was the toughest thing because he always thought that perhaps he had caused my cancer from the stress and all the rest of it. And
Oh, wow.
he made that move on his own, and he didn't cause it. And I put up a big fuss, but let me tell you, it's the best move we've made as a family.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest gift upside that we could give our kids were British passports.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I'm so grateful because our kids are with us. You know, we have family in South Africa who haven't, my sister hasn't seen 2 of her children for over 3 years because they're in Australia and
Yeah,
England.
we have very fragmented families here.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I'm most grateful for. Is we actually still see them regularly, which is it's a gift.
And you're
And
coming
they'll
out
come
here
here.
for December, right? You never
Yes.
miss a Christmas, right?
So we've done 21 Christmases in St. Francis. It's for us, it's just the most amazing place. But now our kids are all adults and they have girlfriends. We can't keep asking them to give us their 3-year leave period. So we're making a big last blast, and I know that as long as we're paying, they'll come.
That's what we need to do to get our children, that we have to pay.
Yes, like
Lizzie, there was something that I've just remembered now, is that a long time ago we were chatting and you said to me that it was very important that you give back in life. I remember we had this conversation in St. Francis years ago. And I remember you told me a story that the way that you give back, one of the ways that you give back is to teach someone a new skill every year. So just tell me about that and what you've done.
Well, when I turned 50, I wrote up a bucket list of 50 bucket list items. And amongst other things, one of them was to teach someone a new skill. And it was lovely. I have a lovely little goddaughter, and I've known her since she was a baby. And 8 or 9 years ago, I started to teach her how to sew. And I'm a strict sewer. Pinning is everything, and it's got to be right, and so on. And we started making just a little square mat for her dog, 2 jumpers with zips and everything. And an incredible thing happened during COVID. She's now a teenager, and in collaboration with her parents, they decided to buy her a really nice sewing machine now, and because she's using it. And during COVID, completely independently, she decided to make patterns of wraparound skirts. You know those ones? It's pretty basic with frills and a little tie over. And she asked me to help her with the pattern, and then she made these things left, right, and center, and got a little business going during COVID.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I was so pleased that was something she had learned.
Well, she had learned from you. I remember I came to see you in London, and I walked on you giving her a lesson, and you were so strict, I actually walked out. I was like, I'm not having any lessons from you. That's the end of that.
You often find that there are moments in when you're younger that somebody comes to you and says, why don't you try this or do this, or teaches you something, and then it just changes. That little chick in your life it just
it's a
changes
pivotal moment.
Changes the pivot, and it goes.
Yeah. Oh, that was
so if you could have the phone number of anybody living or not, who would it be, and what would you want to ask them?
Well, I don't want to put a downer on this program, but I'd phone the big boy upstairs, and I see a lot of unfairness in this world. In terms of, I have such wonderful friends and family who are good people. I mean, really, really good people. But my goodness, the bad luck that comes their way, I actually get scared, because I think, this an equation just doesn't make sense. It's imbalanced, and I'm not I'm not an atheist or anything, but I get cross with God, and sorry, but I just feel he's shit. There's it's not always balanced to who gets it, who doesn't. And I know people say, oh, you make your own luck, but it's funny how it's easy to make your luck when you're feeling lucky. It's very different.
Yeah.
When you're down and out. And I do struggle with that, with inequality. I do struggle.
And also, I think I know that you've lost your brother recently, and I mean that's another case in point. He's such an amazing man, and why did he have to die? Why did he have to suffer?
Yeah.
So I guess that question is quite central to you.
Yeah. But he was someone who would teach us positivity. So I feel good when I think about it. He wouldn't allow it any other way.
Is it not how you approach these things? I mean, you haven't had the luckiest time yourself. You know what I mean? But yet you're a positive person. You know.
Yeah. I have amazing siblings, and we're very close. And I think that positivity is very strong amongst all of us. We will even travel 2 hours to meet if one of us is at an airport for a lunch. And I mean, who does that? But we do. It's lovely. It's very
Lizzie,
special.
do you have any, and I think you do you have any hidden talents or party tricks that you can bring out in a whim? And I know that anyone who knows you is going to say absolutely, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, I'm pretty good putting my mouth around a wine glass.
Show us.
No. But then my other speciality is a kamikaze tequila, which has earned me a lot of respect with our kids' friends. So you take some salt and you make a lime, and then you sniff that up.
Oh no!
Salt.
Yeah, no, you sniff it all up, so it goes right the way into your
Oh no!
Then you down the tequila, and then you squirt the lemon juice in your eye.
I'm not surprised you've earned street cred.
That's not a thing that's going to do you any good, Liz.
And then Lizzie,
Oh no! What is that?
Can you
Liz?
tell us what that is, Lizzie?
What is that?
Okay, this was a DIY makeover, and I was having some eyebrows done. And
Looking lovely.
She said to me, I'll give you some anesthetic, just put a bit on. I don't do bits. You know, excess is my middle name, so I put the entire tube on. Because I thought, that would be more effective. And I was in this car driving, and I remember sitting in a robot, and there was a guy next to me. He looked at me and I went,
Gave me a bit of a wink. Well, it looks like the anesthetics got into your eyes as well by that picture.
What's going on? That's hilarious. Oh, Lizzie, you make me laugh so much. So my last question before we add on to the panel is, we've discussed what your party trick is, but what supernatural talent would you love to have?
oh, I'd like to teleport.
Teleport.
Oh, just think about it. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here. I could just jump into your studio, drinking gin and having those sandwiches with you guys.
You know, some nice sandwiches. We're going to have them just now.
We're going to eat them.
Big one.
No, Gary's just put on a message on the screen here saying, Liz, that you're the kind of person who finds out what will kill you, and then you back off just a little bit and try that. Is that right?
So Lizzie, I always say about Lizzie, being on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
I always said to Mark, if the two of us had got married, he would have been a boring old fart and I'd be dead. That's
He's kept you alive.
Yes. It's been a long
All right,
journey.
Okay,
We're going to
let's
bring on
bring on the other guests.
Yes,
Yeah.
here we go. We've got Bella and Paul on again. How's it, Paul? And
it
Bella's
going?
Bella's obviously sitting in with us all the time, so she's always got a.
Hi guys!
Okay, any questions for Lizzie?
Lizzie, you're amazing. You make me laugh.
She was.
Honestly, wow, what a life you've led, hey? That the whole thing of having to leave home in South Africa and
So hard.
doing all that stuff for me blows my brain. Blows my brain.
Unbelievable.
And you've done it, and everyone's groovy on the other side, and well done, babe. You need a naughty badge.
And if you go to London and you don't phone Lizzie, she tracks you down.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it won't be pretty.
But you know, I found that like 21 years ago as well, 20 years ago when you left and to now, the world's become a smaller place as well. You say you've been out every Christmas.
Now. You know, you must remember, we didn't even have sat-nav or anything. So
Yeah.
I'm cartographically challenged. And I'm not joking. On the second week, I thought I must venture out. I was petrified. Yeah. And if the kids got invited to birthday parties, I'd set off for an hour and a half or down the road. And there are no grids here. It's just windy roads.
Yes.
And then on the second week, I thought, I'm going to go to Kingston It's a place called Kingston. It's 40 minutes from here. And our hand on heart, I ended up in Wales. So,
Oh my God, you see, I can't cope. No.
Wales.
many signs. And I thought, well, this is great. Now
Who's
I'm
that?
here to get home again.
Talking about Wales, I have to tell you a story about Lizzie. So I wanted to go to this thing in Wales called the Do Lectures, which is it's very hard to get to. It's like getting from London to St. Francis when you don't know where you're going. And I wanted to go to this, it's called the Do Lectures in Wales. It's like a place where you go and listen to amazing speakers. And I just phoned Lizzie and I said, do you want to come with me? She goes, yes. Where are we going? I said, we're going to Wales. And the night before, we had this unbelievable party at our house, and we drove to Wales with such bad heads. But it was just a testimony to Lizzie. She's the yes person. She just goes, yeah, I'm in.
Let's go.
Like Bella's the same. In fact,
Yes.
you're all yes people here.
Yes.
So yeah, it's like yes.
I love it. Well, Paul chases the whales on his ski.
Jeepers.
Well,
You've been to Wales on your ski.
There's actually really, really good paddling down in the south, Cornwall side, and apparently the mountain biking in Wales is world class. So,
Oh,
and the
really?
marathons, if you've ever run the London Marathon, you see the crowds there. There's a lot of chaos in England. Might not be lots of sun, but there's some good people.
Yeah.
Lizzie, have you done the London Marathon?
yeah. It was lovely.
Okay.
Really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you did it in the same year.
We wouldn't have been in the same zone.
Right.
Yeah, he does a 2.5 hour August for sure. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Cape Town.
Thanks for asking.
cycle.
They've got a very generous culture. I mean, they raise a shitload of money for charity with the London Marathon.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So well organized. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Really brilliant. The best organized marathon I've ever been to is Berlin. Unbelievable.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Good German engineering.
Very, everything just so, eh?
Yeah. But it was
It's the best after party.
Precision.
Excellent.
Classic.
I love it.
And is there one in Paris? That must be lovely.
There's Paris, yeah. We've actually
it
run,
romantic?
which was really nice, the original marathon, from Marathon to Athens, which for a
Oh,
runner
wow.
is quite special. You know, that's where it all comes from.
All right, the marathon.
Yeah,
Jeepers.
yeah.
Amazing,
Jeepers.
Lizzie.
Old Olympic Stadium where they've still got those rings, but it's the
Oh,
original.
wow.
And you pass
Oh,
the
stunning.
team halfway through, and you give him a pat on the back, and that was very special.
So, where does it start?
In marathon.
At Marathon.
Marathon.
Oh,
The marathon is the actual, that's what it is.
and it finishes at?
In Athens.
In
Wow.
Athens.
So,
That's where the
Proper.
distance comes from. And Phidippides had been tasked to go and tell everyone in Athens that they'd been victorious, but he ran in a full suit of armor, which obviously was a little hectic, and it took him 2 or 3 days. He gave his message and dropped dead.
He died.
No, no.
I dropped dead.
Shame, man.
Oh my word.
Poor
Sorry,
bugger.
that's
A
not.
bad luck. And you know, I bet you Mike Zutmel did that one, the first one. Because he's done just about every single race that I've ever seen.
So, Lizzie, witness to everybody. Paul's going to be in St. Francis at Christmas. So am I. So is Gino.
Yes.
So is Bella. And we'll get Gary there. What are we going to do as a physical challenge? Not a marathon, just saying.
I'm already getting scared,
Me
guys.
too.
Well, you know what?
What's that, Paul?
Down a beach.
Down a
road.
beach blonde.
Oh,
There we go.
That sounds like my kind of vibe. You can always borrow my e-bike.
Now you have to pick one that Bella's going to win.
I've never been a winning sort of type. You know?
You have to run from base to base. So it's dads versus lads, but we put all of us in as well. We've got to hit a ball.
All right.
But it's
Nice.
always
Okay, we're going to leave it up to you
Yeah.
Do
to
it.
arrange something.
All right. I'm in.
I'm in. As long as I can wear my leopard skin bikini and,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
We have girls at the stands, and they've got the.
I'll be one
Excellent.
of those.
I'm in even more now.
Lizzie, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. It was fabulous to hear them again. I know so much. I mean, I could carry on talking to all of you forever. You've got such incredible stories. So thank you for sharing those, and thanks for your words of wisdom and your words of inspiration, because I just feel like we should run home now.
All right, well, we're going to put Liz backstage for now, because we've got our final guest coming in now, which she's been with us actually secretly the whole time, Bella Dakin. There we go.
So Belzy,
Jeepers, yeah.
tell me about you. How would you describe yourself? I feel I have to have wine when I speak to you.
How do I describe myself? All I know is that I'm passionate, and I love, and I'm kind, even if I say so myself.
You are.
Yes.
And I'm very loud. I mean, isn't that pretty much what I am? I don't know, maybe you could find...
No,
entertaining's quite a good one as well.
I think you're probably one of the you should have your own YouTube channel.
Oh no, please, Sans.
No, you should, Bella. You should, because the stories that you have told in your life, and that have happened to you, and how you entertain crowds, you should be paid millions.
Oh, thanks, Sans. Well, I'm hoping they're going to come flowing in.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Can you answer in Xhosa for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So how are you feeling about tonight?
Ndiyayithanda kakuhle apha ngoku thina sihleli kakuhle ndisela kancinci itywala and ndiyavuya.
And what have you just told me?
I said I'm having a lovely time and I've got some dopia and it's all good.
It's all good. Okay. And what would you, in Xhosa, what would you say about the Ukraine and the Russian invasion of Ukraine and, cross?
Ndithi ke ngoku Thixo khawusincedisa. Khawujonge aba bantu phaya e-Ukraine. Andazi ke ngoku. Thixo khawusincedise. Amen.
What's that?
Lord God, please just help the people in the Ukraine. We don't know what's going on. Can you just come in and help?
Yes.
Oh, Bills.
Pretty much. Eh?
Pretty much. I love it. Tell us why you know Xhosa so well. Give us some background.
Well, I grew up on a farm in Tarkastad in the Winterberg. Tarkastad. Yeah, and in the Winterberg, and and I come from a family of 6, and I'm number 6, and I'm naughty and I'm cheeky, and I'm the one that said, there she goes again. She's outrageous. You know what I mean? It's like one of those.
So tell us when you went to boarding school at the age of 5.
When I went to boarding school at the age of 5, I got into a class in Tarkastad, and it was like Afrikaans, English, what's a dual medium? Yeah. But there were a lot of Afrikaans people there. And I was probably the only English person. So if I had to speak to anyone, and we spoke Xhosa, and I just prayed that person came from a farm and could speak Xhosa.
You learned Xhosa first before English.
No, totally. And then it was time to read and stuff, and it was, Janet and John goes up the hill, and I went, Janet and John, fly a aeroplane. So the teacher said to me, I think you need elocution lessons. Not me, phone my mother.
Yeah.
And is that because you spent your informative years on the farm?
Yeah, barefoot, going to school with them, having the time of my life.
Yeah.
I mean...
And good values from the farm.
Yeah, and my folks were busy because they had 5 other siblings and they were playing Western Province rugby in Cape Town, and I was this lighty and I was just left there.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was beautiful. I had the most amazing upbringing. I was brought up by the most magnificent people.
Well,
I mean, the people that looked after all of us looked after me. My mom and dad were going, darling, we're going,
Yes, yes.
Whatever.
In the Rose Garden.
And like Cape Town, they were fluttering around the place.
And you were staying at home on the farm, Janet and John.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
I mean, I don't know if it's correct to say this, but I used to go and Sinda and Teza. Teza used to go when you go down into the farmlands and you go and collect sticks and stuff to make fires, and you Teza and you put it on your head, and then you'd come back and then you'd Sinda, you'd go and get the cow dung from the blimmin' kraals, and you would go and Sinda with your friends, and my ladies, they used to say, You can't play with my daughters until you've helped clean our homes.
Oh, quite right.
It was like a bribery
Quite
for
right.
me, and I used to run up and say, "Okay, Ags, we'll all clean and tidy. Sinda, Teza, and then can they come and play with me?"
And it was all good.
What a chore!
Happy
What
days.
a chore!
Happy
Anyway,
days.
yeah.
So, what's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said about you?
The nicest thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Probably that I'm a very kind person.
Yeah, you are.
I think.
Yeah, and I think people all say that, Bella.
Yeah.
I think they do say that. So,
Selfless kind.
What moves you emotionally?
Oh, Sans, why are you giving me all these hard questions? What moves me emotionally? Well, I've had a couple of emotional things in my life, but when I talk about, I lost my two nephews when I was sort of in the prime of having kids and everything. They were like brothers to me in a way because they were sort of 5-7 years older than me, and they died. One died in a car accident, and the other one died after being terribly mangled in a car accident. And it took forever, and I had this brother on the farm who had to go through all of it, and his gorgeous daughter and all that. So emotionally, when people talk to me about having lost someone, I understand.
Totally.
Because when I lost those people, we'd also just lost my father as well. I looked at my friends who'd never lost anybody, and I used to get irritated with them and say, "You don't really know
understand.
what it's like
Yeah.
to lose someone like
Yeah.
tragically like that."
Do you find out? I mean, I've lost my mom, obviously, but do you find that life and death, it's like birth and death almost has the same feeling in some strange way? I found when I lost my mom and when my child was born, it was I almost had a similar feeling. Do you feel that? Do you think that am I imagining these things or what?
No.
It's like a circle.
Yeah, a
It's
circle
like
of life, and there's
circle
so often the case where you lose someone and then there's a birth of someone.
Yeah.
That.
But I'm
that
not saying I don't believe in reincarnation or anything
Yeah.
like that. But it's just that the same feeling of intense grief, but then intense joy. It's like those.
Oh wow!
It's those things
Yeah.
that seem to be almost in some way linked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, it's all very emotional. I'm an emotional person. I can cry when I'm happy. I can cry when I'm sad. I can cry when I'm joyful. You know.
But that is a fantastic. It's not a skill. It's a reaction to have, because you're living life. I mean, I think Paul spoke about feeling. He said he wants to bring the feeling back, and I think that's what you do so beautifully. Is that you are like that.
Yeah.
You feel very, very acutely.
I do.
Yeah, and
I do.
And it's a great barometer, and it's a great lesson to people trying to hold it in.
Yeah.
Because what the hell, I couldn't.
Why not?
Yeah, I couldn't.
Why are we holding anything in today in life?
Yeah.
We've only got one life to live. You've got to say it and do it as you feel it. Really.
So, what's the best discovery that you've made about yourself in recent times?
In recent times. Well, I told you I walked that Camino.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
There was an upside around that story.
Yes. So the upside.
Sorry, before you carry on, I know that you've walked away from you run away from
my
home
family.
twice.
I've had enough of all of you. I'm going to go and find myself.
Okay, tell us about that one.
And this Camino one was so funny because my son was probably in his matric or standard 8 year, and the kids had also seen me do other things, climb Kilimanjaro, climb Aconcagua, which we'll probably talk about, and just like I've done with all of you, I'm buggering off and whatever. But this one was so funny because they were watching my son play rugby at St Andrews, and Gavin Dugmore said, "Have you heard about Bella Dakin? She's going to go and find herself." In the Camino, and someone shouted, "Jeepers, she's going to get a damn big fright when she does." Anyway, I did. I walked off I went on the Camino just to clear my head spiritually, to clear my head with like grumpiness. My brother's got the farms, and you know what I mean. I was like,
oh, your dad had just died.
And I'd lost these two beautiful nephews of mine. And everything, I just need, because my husband is such a beautiful man, and I think he looked at me and he said, oh, sometimes you're not nice around here, you know, like, so I wanted to be nice at home.
Yes, okay.
So I decided to leave home to become nice again.
And walk for how long?
And 5 weeks.
On your own?
Yeah. And anyway, to cut a long story short, in Spain, and the question was, what was the upside of the whole thing? Well, damn hard, to walk on your own.
Okay.
And not know where you're going, because I'm not the most geographically sort of like well-traveled, like sort of, you know.
No phone.
No, phone only in certain areas,
Okay.
Anyway, to cut a long story short, I met this wonderful man called Frank and lots of other people, but Frank and I ended up just enjoying each other, and we'd bump into each other, and by the end of the 5 weeks, we were walking together most of the way. And he hadn't even told me that his son was a heroin addict.
Oh.
He worked for the UN is it the United Nations in America, but he had his sister's ashes in his rucksack.
Wow.
And he came from a place called Galicia, which is in Spain. And he said, we walked, and he told me about how he was going to go and scatter his ashes in Galicia, his sister's ashes. She died of breast cancer, and meet up with the family. And we had this whole thing, and we walked and walked. And the end of the 5 weeks, he brought out this rosary, and I'm not Catholic, but he handed it over to me, and he said to me, you know, my sister said I must give this rosary to her best friend in Galicia. But you know what? She would have given it to you. So I've still got this rosary that hangs over my cross next to my bed every night. I don't do that. I say about our fathers. When I don't sleep, I probably say more than the Catholics. But anyway, so that's my story about that. And that is the upside of that walk. Yes. Is that it was so wonderful to meet someone who thought I was so amazing.
I know. And you are. And I mean, I think that, but Bells, I want to ask you, I just want to go back. So, like, when you walk for 5 weeks on your own and your feet are sore, do your feet get sore and everything?
My feet got so sore. I had to change, and I ended up walking in German shoes with German socks shoes. Lots of sense of humor. When you want to give up, you just want to call it a day. What you doing here?
Then what happens?
And then you sleep in these dormitories with people, and they're guys that bath with no clothes on you, and they snore, and you're all like on top of each other, you know. And then you land up in we landed up in a very crazy place. One night it was scary because it was snowing, and we had to find accommodation fast.
Sure.
And and it wasn't nice. The people weren't nice. It's not nice. It's not
So
nice. And we slept on yoga mats, and you've got to like handle these people.
So why didn't you just give up?
Give up. You never give up. You never give up.
Yeah, you'll never do that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and then the second time you ran away from home?
Oh, that was with David, your husband. Yeah, and everyone thought we were going to have an affair on the mountains. And Sandy had to put them right and say, you know, on the mountains you can hardly breathe.
And you don't bath.
Yeah, and you don't bath. And I promise you can't even, you would never be able to even think about that. So I walked with Davey, but by then I'd only climbed Kilimanjaro. And I'd come back, and I was fit, but Dave said, do Aconcagua with me. And I was so naive, I just said, I'm in, baby. You know? How much? Like 45 grand, sure, you know. I've got so much money, I'm just going to throw it with the problem.
So, when we go back to it, started off with a lunch. So David had already tried Aconcagua, and he had failed to summit.
Yeah.
So he was already like -1, and he was very irritated because, you know, you got to, as Paul said, you got to win, you know.
Yeah.
It's a winner.
Anyway, so we went to Bryce and Bella for lunch, and at the end of the lunch, David was saying he wants to go back and try again, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, fine, that's cool. Off we go. Bryce, you okay with it? Sandy? Yeah, we all cool with it. Off you go.
And we had to train, and Dave is probably, you know, these corporate oaks, they want to like push you too far, and they were making me run up hills and jump and do all kinds of things. Oh, Davey, come, you got to train. Anyway, we finally got onto the whole thing, and walked. I didn't know. I was so blind. I never thought Aconcagua was this huge, but it was huge.
It's the highest mountain peak in
Gino,
South America.
we walked and we walked and we walked through riverbeds, and
Where is this?
It's in South America, and there were
Chile.
mules
It's the highest
walking
peak
after
in
us,
South America.
and we had to carry pretty much everything apart from the stove. Okay. And I mean, we spent anyway.
Sherpas.
So hectic. We had, it wasn't Sherpas, these donkeys, but what a lekker experience in retrospect. But at the time, I was thinking, David, what have you brought me into? I can't believe I keep walking and walking and walking. Anyway, 2 weeks or something, and then we finally get to base camp. I don't know how. I'm not analytical, so I don't know how long it took us to get to base camp. But once we get to base camp, I'm so puffy that they we go to have our medical thing.
Like puffy, like it's swollen up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of cerebral edema, you get all these funny things and
oxygen
and whatever.
stuff, huh?
And they say, oh no, you're too puffy, no way, climb up there.
No puffy got explode.
And then Dave says, we're just going to find a telephone. Well, we had to go through all these ice things called penitentes, to go and find this phone. And our phone Bryce said, I'm not going to make it up the mountain. It's like New Year, Christmas at home. He can't believe I've left them all.
Me too. Just
and
by the way,
yeah.
excuse me too.
And anyway,
You're not going to make it.
yeah, and five days later, we were allowed up the mountain. But when I saw the rest of the climb, I said, Dave, do we have to go up there? He said, yes. And that was just another tip to another place. Dave, do we have to get up there? By this time, we now got crampons on, and there's ice all over the place. Well, when we finally got to the final summit, the snow came down, everything was against us, but we spent 2 nights up there. And Davey, we played cards out of a Christmas cracker bunch of cards like this. We had to put our crampons on and go and cut the ice and melt it. Oh, it was anyway. Davey and I in a tent like this, the snow, he just snores. I said, Davey, are these Everest tents? Are you sure we're not going to die up here? Because we can't go up and we can't go down, Anyway, to cut a long story short, there he's snoring and I'm going, why did I ever do this? I'm missing my family. Do you think I'll ever see them again? No, it was radical, Gino. I thought I was never going to get down that mountain.
But you didn't summit.
We didn't summit, but probably that is something that also people need to learn about life. Is that it's not always about summiting, winning, being the best.
It's
a journey.
It is a journey, of course.
And then when you came down to Mendoza, you went trawling.
Oh, Davey and I went on a charge of note, and that was it. And
But I have to say, when David came back from his lunch, and he said no. And then he said to me, Sandy, Bella's quite loud. David is quiet. And I said, Dave, you're going away with him for 5 weeks. I don't know how you're going to do it. He said, don't worry, Sandy, as you get higher, there's less oxygen. She's going to say nothing the whole time.
Well, by the end, I was desperate. I just lay there like a shivering, a wreck. Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing because you also just rise up to stuff and you just do stuff.
Yeah,
you've got career plans.
No, for sure.
I'm
not scared.
Like Paul's saying, you got to grab life by the horns. You got to do it. You got to get in there now. And I think as you get older, you realize this morning, hell, man, how many years we got left? It's less something. I always said we do it with St. Francis, but the Andersons, Ryan Anderson, his dad.
Yeah.
He always says that, my son, my wife, my boy, I haven't got many summers left, he says. My wife, Dad, you say that all the time. But you do have this thing of okay, well, listen, my life is getting shorter now, we're passing halfway, this is it, so let's do it.
Absolutely.
And Pels, you've got a daughter who's living a really, really, well, we've got 3 beautiful children, but Rebecca's living a life that you would probably love to have done had you not got married so early.
Wow!
Because she's on the yachts and the super yachts and living it up.
Oh, she's having a great time. But listen, they work hard. It all sounds so great, groovy. I mean, she's done a lot of traveling and all that, but it's still hard work. But I'm very proud of her, and she's enjoying herself. We're going to meet her in Greece now.
Are you going?
Yes.
You might as well do the marathon while you're there.
Oh, definitely,
From marathon
baby.
to Athens.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So that's exciting, and we're going to go and visit my friend Kimmy in Palma, Mallorca after that. Sir.
Kim came up on there.
Yes,
Like,
we'll
did
some,
she?
some of these comments
yeah.
while we're here as well. Let's have a quick squiz at some of the comments. I see Kim van der Vijver there, lovely Doris, you're a spectacular one of a kind. So lots of love there for Bella. I see Justin Moore, Bryce Westman. Okay, dear.
Okay, dear.
Okay, dear. I see Davina's up there and saying lovely show. There was somebody else I saw now. Justin Moore, was it? No. Thea Detman as well was also saying it was there as well. Saying how's it? Yeah, it's just down the road. Fordyce Road. Paint Tube. You Eastern Capies are all about drinking talents. That sounds like somewhere from the Kempton Hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
Charming. Paul, you're going to be backstage till 3:30, so once Bella gets going. That's fires for feeling.
Fires. Sure.
So, Balzi, you've got a new little grandson.
Yes.
What do you want him to know about life?
I don't know if it's the right thing to say to these youngsters to look at the cell phones all day and all that stuff, but be natural, be pure, just believe and love and be kind and breathe and I don't know.
Kindness is the currency, for sure.
Really, I don't know.
Paul's all about the outside. Outside, I think there's definitely
be real, be real, be real.
Yeah.
Be kind. I don't know. Just why is everyone so competitive? Why does everybody want to win, be the best? I've never been like that. When I played tennis, I was a very good tennis player. If the ball was on the line, I'd just say, "Well done."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, it wasn't like, it didn't really matter.
Doesn't matter, does
you
it?
know?
Unless you've been beyond ball or something.
I suppose
earn you money.
if my grandson became the president of whatever, I'd probably be proud. But I hope he would do it his granny's way, naturally, nicely, purely, and kindly.
How are you when you're watching your kids or your grandkids playing sport? Are you like,
No, my kids used to say I was embarrassing.
Oh, are you? Okay. Oh, no, I get that. You see,
Okay, so I'll take my words back. Yeah.
Now I competitive.
But you know what I've realized, that when you at the time you think it's important, but now in today's world it means absolutely nothing. You know. And I wish I could tell that to my kids now, because their kids are growing up and they're going to be the same.
Yeah.
Wanting them to win, and do, and be the best. And really, there's more to life than that, as Paul was saying.
Can you put up that picture? I want to
There's
ask.
some pictures here.
There, Bells, can you tell us about that
That picture.
Guys, that's on the farm in Tarkestad, and people were being bored. They were boring. They were boring. And no one wanted to drink with me or play with me or do anything with me, so I gave them a show.
Nice. I like that.
And that was family.
Only family.
Not everybody.
But like my brothers, and you know what I mean. And my kids were so used to this type of behavior. So they would just walk out or just look and like, oh, that's mom again. There she goes. Taking off her kit.
Oh, Bells, you make me laugh so much. Should we bring on the others?
Yes, let's bring on the rest.
Bells, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Great stories.
Paul and Liz.
Great stories.
There we go. Thank you. It's been absolutely fantastic, guys. Our very first coffee break that you guys have all been a part of. And Sandy, it's been fantastic. I think it's a wonderful concept. It brings a bit of depth to my show, which I love, because I'm a comedian, so it's all about the funny and about thing for me. But I've noticed that interviewing with so many people and doing with so many varied kind of people, that you often go into a deeper place, and I think this is this has been the perfect platform for it.
I mean, it's what I love doing, and I get to do it with people that I love. So, I mean, what more can you want in life than that?
Yeah.
And it's been a very entertaining and fun time for me. I haven't felt stressed. I felt like I'm just sitting in a lounge with some good mates and chewing the fat.
It is absolutely.
So, thank you. Thank you to my 3 guests.
Thank you, Sam.
Welcome you. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, and we haven't given you, Lizzie and Paul, a chance just to thrash out anything that you feel like you want to get from Bella.
I love your stories, for a start. You describe them so vividly. But more than anything, I loved what you spoke about children, is that they mustn't worry about all this coming first. I've said it to my kids as well. And, even Mike and I, as parents, we were so concerned that we did the right thing and we didn't step out of line because we were in a foreign country. We didn't know how things worked, and we wanted the kids to behave, and there was a lot of pressure on Mike because he had to do his stuff. It's not important. When you get to this stage, none of it is important.
Yeah.
It just
it goes so quick.
Your relationships and your times that you spend together with people that you love, that's important.
That's about everything.
Yeah.
You asked Sandy what each of us wanted to be remembered for, and I think that is what highlights it. Is I think all of us would agree that none of that stuff would be on our list. None of it.
Yeah, none of it would be, for sure. Paul, you look like you want to say something.
No, I was blown away by the climbing of Aconcagua. I mean, that's one of the 7 summits of the world. So not a Tarkastad protected Eastern Cape farm person heading out into the greatest outdoors. That's pretty radical. And I don't know if obviously at the time you cried and missed your family, but I'm assuming that later in life you've taken things in your stride and realized, well, if you could do that, you can do anything.
Yeah, that is the upside.
Yeah.
And also Bella came back and there was no fighting in the household for at least a year. Bella was so thankful to see her family.
Yeah.
So thankful. She forgave them for everything.
And I think they were very grateful to know that I was back safely. I think I was.
You guys are frozen again.
You need the theme song of Frozen. Come on, Gino, hit us with a bit of Frozen song.
It's been lovely doing this. I enjoyed it.
It's great.
I can't say I was looking forward to it. I was a bit nervous, Paul. But it was
so
fun.
funny seeing. Well, I mean, it's poor Sans. I mean, she's starting a brand new show with new people. I think it's lovely. Venturing into the unknown again. It can only pay off. Eh?
Doesn't she have the most amazing capability of drawing people out?
She's beautiful. She's all about other people. She's so selfless. I love it.
And she remembers. She takes the trouble to remember.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're back.
We can definitely learn a lot. She's a beautiful character.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul and Liz. We're back. Can you see? We're in again. Yeah,
and
good.
so, just to tell you that the show will be edited and will stay up on YouTube. If people who can't watch it will be able to see it, Gary's going to put it up, and it'll be on there. For anyone.
Bella, you can move a little bit into our camera. It'll be easy for the last little bit.
You know what, Sandy? I'm sure I speak for the others, but I just want to say to you, thank you for taking a risk on us. This was
It was a huge risk.
There's no guarantee what's going to come out of these mouths.
I had a sleepless night last night. I thought, oh my gosh, there's going to be some trouble coming out of those two. But you all behaved beautifully.
Oh, my soul. Listen, we're just going to have a quick look at the comments before we go. And Brian McLean's the two aunties. The two aunties. Gary Levata. Gary Levata says, if you love my body and you think I'm sexy, come on, sugar, let me know. That's right. Mark Bodley says, great to see you again, Bella, and your landscaping is wonderful. Yes, I can vouch for that as well. She's done a bit of landscaping over here. Tanya Thompson, Paul saying, how's it? Fantastic show. Thank you so much, Tanya. And Wendy and Sean, there's your brother and sister with their group account. Yeah, no. Gary DeBrain, how's it, Gary?
Hey, Gary!
Fitch and Leeds, of course, Gary DeBrain. Thank you very much, Gary, for all your support. And Gary DeBrain is now, they are sponsoring me for my live shows. They're taking me 5 shows throughout the country we're going to do with Fitch and Leeds.
Well done.
Thank you to that to the guys, Fitch and Leeds. Mike Barwood, that is great. Well done, Sandy. Thank you, Mike Barwood. And your pineapple suit is just Just me, brah. Well, pineapple shoot, I love it. Sue Rhodes, brilliant show. Such a good concept. Thank you, Sue. And Sue will be helping us as well. She's actually helping us doing the editing of the shows too. Your stories about the journey, all about the journey. You're quite right, Cheryl. I see. Oh, Sally Ann Chalmers saying, "How's sister?" Sally Ann, Brendan Kelly, great initiative. Thank you, Brendan. Yeah, we're trying new stuff with Gino's spot, and it's fantastic. I think this has worked out really. It's a beautiful show, and this format allows us to get people like Liz and Paul from Cape Town, so we can get people with PE ties all the way in, and it's just like you're back here with us. Bandy Dalton, thank you. Love to show you guys are totally intimidating with your amazing achievement. You're totally intimidating, Liz. You're totally. Oh, man.
Classic.
Okay,
So is that a wrap?
Thank you, Sandy and Zilla. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Paul.
Just Paulie! Say my love to Sandra.
Thank you to Spa as well for the sponsorship. And we're glad we made it through. Excellent, thanks guys. Well done,
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gino. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks to
you.
Gary.
Thanks,
Evans.
Finch and Leeds and Spa.
Spa and Finch and Leeds. Thank you very much.
Happy days.
Cats for
Cheers,
the
guys.
food. Yeah. All right, and this is your theme music, which we're getting. Put a bass line on this soon. Don't worry. All right, thank you guys.